The sky cracked open without a sound. No warning, no signal, no message repeating across satellites. Just a clear blue afternoon that suddenly split like glass, a jagged scar stretching from horizon to horizon as if reality itself had been torn apart by something unseen. People stopped in the streets. Cars rolled to a halt. For one impossible second, the entire world stared upward, confused, frozen, waiting for their minds to catch up with what their eyes were seeing. Then something moved inside the fracture. Not one shape, not one ship, thousands. They poured through the rupture like a flood breaking through a dam, dark silhouettes spilling into Earth's sky. Massive constructs twisted and unfolded as they emerged, their surfaces shifting like living metal, their forms too complex and alien for the human mind to fully grasp. And still, there was no sound. Until the first city vanished. Karachi disappeared in a single flash of white light. Not destroyed, not burned, erased. One moment it existed, the next it was gone, leaving behind a perfect circular void where millions of lives had been. Then the screaming began. Across the globe, panic ignited like wildfire. News feeds exploded with chaos. Governments scrambled to respond. Military forces mobilized. But there was no time to prepare, no time to understand. The invaders did not wait. They spread across the planet with terrifying efficiency, their ships moving in precise formations, targeting major population centers first. Beijing, New York, London, Delhi. One by one, cities were struck, their defenses meaningless against technology that bent physics itself. Humanity fought back anyway. Missiles launched from every continent. Fighter jets climbed into the sky, pilots knowing they were flying towards something they could not defeat. Naval fleets fired everything they had. It did nothing. The alien vessels were surrounded by shimmering distortions that swallowed explosions whole. Weapons systems failed before locking on. Communications broke down under waves of interference that felt less like jamming and more like something rewriting the rules of reality. Within hours, the truth became undeniable. This was not a war humanity could win. Or so it seemed. Beneath the ruins of what had once been a research facility in the Swiss Alps, a hidden chamber remained untouched by the chaos above. Its walls were lined with screens, each one showing a different piece of a collapsing world. Dr. Elias Vaughan stood at the center of it all, his hands trembling as he watched the destruction unfold. "This isn't random," he said quietly. A military officer beside him frowned. "They're wiping us out. That seems pretty straightforward." Elias shook his head. "No, look at the pattern. They're not just destroying cities. They're targeting infrastructure, power grids, data centers, transportation hubs. They're dismantling us." The officer's expression hardened. "Same result." "Not quite," Elias replied. "If they wanted us gone, they could have done it in minutes. This is controlled." "Why?" Elias didn't answer immediately. His eyes were locked on one of the screens, watching as an alien ship hovered over what remained of Berlin, its surface rippling as if it were alive. "Because they want something." Silence filled the room. Then the officer spoke. "Can we stop them?" Elias hesitated. Then he turned and looked at a sealed door at the far end of the chamber. "Maybe," he said, "but you're not going to like how." The door opened with a low hiss. Inside was not a weapon. It was a room filled with people. Or what used to be people. They stood in perfect stillness, their eyes closed, their bodies connected to a network of cables and interfaces that pulsed with faint blue light. The skin shimmered unnaturally, veins glowing faintly beneath the surface. "How many?" the officer asked. 23, Elias said. "Out of hundreds of attempts." "Attempts at what?" Elias took a deep breath. "Understanding them." The officer frowned. "You've captured one of their ships." "No," Elias said. "We studied something else." He gestured to the figures in the room. Their logic. Years ago, humanity had detected anomalies in deep space. Not signals, not ships, but patterns. Complex, shifting mathematical structures that appeared and disappeared without explanation. Elias and his team had spent years trying to decode them. What they discovered changed everything. The patterns were not natural. They were artificial, and they were not meant to be understood. They were meant to change the minds that studied them. Most researchers exposed to the patterns suffered neurological damage. Some went insane. A few adapted. Those few became something else. Faster thinkers. Pattern recognizers. Minds capable of processing information in ways no normal human could. The 23 in the room were the survivors of that process. They can think like the aliens, Elias said. Not completely, but enough. The officer stared at them. You want to use them as soldiers? No, Elias replied. As a bridge. Before the officer could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. One of the screens shifted, showing a new development. The alien ships were changing formation. They were converging. Where? The officer demanded. Elias's eyes widened as the data came in. Here. The room went silent. They've found us, the officer asked. No, Elias said slowly. They've chosen us. The first strike hit the mountain like a god's hammer. Rock shattered. Reinforced structures collapsed. Entire sections of the facility were crushed in seconds. Emergency systems activated, sealing off critical areas as debris rained down. They're coming in, someone shouted. Not from the sky, from inside. The alien ships did not land. They phased. Sections of their structures passed through solid rock as if it wasn't there, emerging within the facility itself. They unfolded into smaller units, their forms shifting into something closer to ground-based constructs. Not soldiers, collectors. They moved with purpose, ignoring anything that did not resist, targeting data centers, laboratories, and most importantly, the chamber containing the 23 enhanced humans. They're taking them, the officer said. Elias nodded. That's what they came for. Then we don't let them. The officer drew his weapon, but Elias grabbed his arm. That won't work. Then what will? Elias looked at the chamber. Wake 'em up. The officer hesitated for only a second before nodding. The process was never meant to be rushed. It was dangerous even under controlled conditions. But there was no time for caution. Elias initiated the override. One by one, the figures in the chamber began to move. Eyes opened. Not confused. Not disoriented. Aware. A woman at the front stepped forward, disconnecting herself from the system with a single motion. Her gaze swept the room, taking in everything in an instant. What's happening? She asked. War, Elias said. And you're the only ones who can stop it. She nodded once. Then point me in the right direction. Her name was Lyra. She did not ask for details. She did not hesitate. The moment the chamber doors opened, she and the others moved. Fast, not just physically, but mentally. They anticipated movements before they happened, reacted to threats before they fully formed. The alien constructs inside the facility were unlike anything human forces had encountered, but the enhanced humans met them head-on. For the first time, the invaders slowed. Lyra saw it immediately. They're adjusting, she said. Can you keep up? Elias asked over the comms. She smiled faintly. Watch. She changed her approach mid-combat, shifting tactics in a way that forced the alien units to hesitate. It was a small delay, barely noticeable, but it was there. They're not used to resistance like this, she said. Not from something they don't fully understand. Good, Elias replied. Confuse them. That's not enough, Lyra said. We need to hurt them. Then find a way. She did. The alien constructs were not independent. They were extensions of a larger system, connected through a network that allowed them to share information instantly. Lyra targeted that connection. Using equipment from the lab, she improvised a device that disrupted the local network, creating a momentary lag in their coordination. It was enough. The humans struck. The constructs fell. For the first time since the invasion began, human forces achieved a clear victory. But it came at a cost. Out of the 23, only 15 remained. The others lay still, their bodies unable to withstand the strain of what they had become. Lyra did not look at them. We're not done, she said. Elias's voice came through the comms. They're pulling back. Why? A pause. Then Elias answered, because they got what they needed. Lyra froze. What? Data? Elias said. They came here to study you. To understand how you think. And now they do. Not completely, he said. But enough to improve. Lyra looked up, as if she could see through the mountain to the sky beyond. Then we don't give them time. The plan formed quickly. Too quickly for comfort. They would take the fight to the source. Not the ships in the sky. The fracture, the tear in reality that had brought the aliens here. If we can close it, Elias said, we cut 'em off. No reinforcements. No retreat. And if we fail? The officer asked. Elias didn't answer. He didn't need to. Lyra stepped forward. Prepare the launch. Within hours, they were in the air. A small craft, barely holding together under the stress of experimental modifications, carrying the last 15 enhanced humans toward the fracture in the sky. As they approached, the scale of it became clear. It wasn't just a tear. It was a wound. Space itself warped around it, light bending unnaturally, time seeming to stretch and compress at its edges. And beyond it, something moved. More ships. Waiting. They're not invading, Lyra said quietly. They're migrating. Elias's voice came through the comms. Meaning, they're running from something, she said. And we're in their way. Silence. Then the officer spoke. Doesn't change anything. Lyra nodded. No, it doesn't. The alien fleet moved to intercept. This time, there was no hesitation. They had learned. The battle that followed was unlike anything before. The aliens adapted in real time, countering strategies almost as soon as they were used. The enhanced humans pushed themselves beyond their limits, their minds burning with the strain of constant evolution. One by one, they fell. 15 became 10. 10 became 6. 6 became 3. Lyra was one of the last. The fracture loomed ahead, unstable, dangerous. Now, Elias said, deploy the device. She activated it. Nothing happened. For a moment, it seemed like it had failed. Then the fracture reacted. It began to close. Slowly at first, then faster, the edges pulling together as if reality was healing itself. The alien ships surged forward, desperate now, trying to escape before the gateway sealed. Lyra understood in an instant. If they get through, she said, this doesn't end. Then stop them, the officer replied. She didn't hesitate. She turned the craft around and flew directly into the path of the escaping fleet. Alone, the final moments were chaos. Energy beams tore through space. The craft shook violently. Systems failed one by one. But Lyra held her course. She was not trying to survive. She was trying to win. The first ship collided with her. Then another. The chain reaction was immediate. The narrow passage through the fracture became a trap, ships colliding, energy surging uncontrollably. And then the fracture closed. Everything beyond it vanished. The sky above Earth healed. The war was over. Days later, the world was still. Broken, burned, but alive. Elias stood on the surface for the first time since the invasion, looking up at a sky that was once again whole. No ships, no cracks, just blue. A soldier approached him. Do you think they're gone? Elias shook his head. No, he said. They're out there. Whatever they were running from, it's still out there too. The soldier frowned. Then this isn't over. Elias allowed himself a small, tired smile. It never is. He looked up at the sky one last time. But next time, his voice was quiet, but steady. They'll know who they're dealing with. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of human eyes, something listened. And learned. Because humanity had just proven something to the universe. We don't wait for war to find us. We survive it. We adapt to it. And when the time comes, we end it. Silence did not feel like peace. It felt like something holding its breath. For weeks after the sky healed, the world struggled to understand what had happened. Cities were gone. Entire coastlines had been reshaped by orbital strikes. Communication networks were fractured, governments destabilized, economies shattered. But humanity endured. Not because it was ready, Because it had no choice. Reconstruction began immediately, though it looked nothing like the old world. There was no time for politics, no space for old rivalries. Survival stripped everything down to its core. Food, shelter, power, security. The basics became everything, and above all else, preparation. Because no one believed it was over. Dr. Elias Vaughn stood in what used to be a control room, now repurposed into a global coordination hub. Screens stretched across the walls, displaying fragments of a recovering planet. Data streams flickered constantly, tracking everything from atmospheric anomalies to deep space scans. He hadn't slept properly in days. Not because of the workload. Because of the data. They're still out there, he said quietly. Across the room, Commander Hale folded his arms. He looked older than he had a month ago, the weight of the war etched into every line of his face. You've been saying that since the fracture closed. Elias nodded. And I'll keep saying it until someone proves me wrong. Hale sighed. We've scanned every inch of the solar system. There's nothing. Not nothing, Elias corrected. Absence. Hale frowned. What does that mean? Elias brought up a series of readings. Deep space scans, long-range probes, residual energy traces. Before the invasion, space had a certain noise, he explained. Background radiation, gravitational fluctuations, quantum anomalies, normal cosmic chaos. And now, it's quieter, Elias said. Too quiet. Hale didn't like the sound of that. You think they're hiding? Elias hesitated. No, he said slowly. I think something bigger is coming. The room fell silent. No one laughed. No one dismissed it, because they had already seen the impossible once. Weeks turned into months. Humanity rebuilt faster than anyone thought possible. Not perfectly, not cleanly, but effectively. New cities rose where old ones had fallen. Technologies once considered experimental were pushed into mass production. Energy systems became more efficient, more resilient. And the military changed. Completely. Traditional weapons were no longer enough. The invasion had proven that. So humanity adapted. They studied the remains of the alien ships that had been disabled during the final battle. Their materials, their energy systems, their logic structures. They couldn't replicate it, not entirely, but they could learn from it. New weapons emerged, hybrid technologies that blended human engineering with alien principles. Not as advanced, but unpredictable in ways the invaders had not accounted for. And then there was Project Continuum, the successor to the program that had created Lyra and the others. This time, they were more careful, more precise. They understood the risks better now. Understood what it meant to push the human mind beyond its limits. They didn't try to create dozens. They created one. Her name was Neera. She opened her eyes in a room filled with silence. Not the oppressive silence of fear, but something calmer. Controlled. Intentional. She sat up slowly, her movements fluid, natural. Where am I? She asked. Elias stood in front of her. Somewhere safe, he said. She looked at him, studying his face in a way that felt deeper than sight. You're lying, she said calmly. Elias didn't flinch. Yes, he admitted, but only partially. Neera stood. Her gaze shifted to the walls, the systems, the faint hum of machinery around her. This place is hidden, she said. Shielded, isolated. Yes. From what? Elias paused. From what's coming. She turned back to him. And what is that? Elias didn't answer immediately. Instead, he handed her a data tablet. See for yourself. Neera took it. The moment her fingers touched the surface, something changed. Her eyes flickered, just for a second, as if processing far more information than the screen displayed. Then she froze. What is this? She asked. A signal, Elias said. Neera looked up sharply. I thought there were no signals. There weren't, Elias replied. Until 3 days ago. She looked back at the data. It wasn't like anything the original invaders had used. It was wrong, not structured, not logical. It didn't repeat. It didn't follow patterns. It seemed to shift constantly, as if it was alive in a way that defied analysis. It's not communication, Neera said slowly. No. Elias agreed. It's a presence. Elias nodded. That's what we think. Neera set the tablet down. It's getting closer. Elias felt a chill run through him. How do you know? She looked at him, her expression calm but intense. Because it's not traveling through space, she said. It's spreading. The first sign was not in the sky. It was in the stars. Astronomers noticed it first. Small discrepancies in distant light patterns. Stars that dimmed for no apparent reason. Constellations that seemed to shift ever so slightly, as if something vast was moving between them. At first, it was dismissed as observational error. Then entire regions of the sky went dark. Not blocked. Gone. No explosion. No supernova. Just absence. As if those stars had never existed. Panic began to rise again, quieter this time but deeper. Because this was different. The first invasion had been visible. Understandable, in a way. This was not. Neera stood on the observation deck of the facility, staring up at the night sky. It's erasing them, she said. Elias stood beside her. Stars. She shook her head. Everything. He felt his stomach tighten. What is it? Neera was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. I don't think it's an enemy, she said. That's not reassuring. It's worse than that, she replied. It doesn't see us as anything at all. The second fracture did not open. It unfolded. A section of space above the Pacific Ocean seemed to peel back, not violently like before, but smoothly, like a curtain being drawn aside. Beyond it was not darkness. It was nothing. Not empty space. Not void. Nothing. No light. No depth. No structure. Just absence. And from that absence, something emerged. At first, it was invisible. Then the air itself began to distort. Ships in the ocean below vanished without a trace. Aircraft disappeared mid-flight. Satellites winked out one by one. No explosions. No debris. Just gone. Global alarms triggered instantly. This is not the same as before, Hale said, watching the reports flood in. No. Elias agreed. It's not. Neera didn't wait for orders. We can't fight this the same way, she said. Hale looked at her. Then how do we fight it? She met his gaze. We don't. Silence. Then what? He demanded. Neera turned back to the sky. We understand it. The first contact was not intentional. A research drone, equipped with the latest hybrid technology, was sent toward the anomaly. It did not transmit data. It became data. Its systems began to rewrite themselves as it approached the edge of the nothingness. Signals twisted, information looping and folding in on itself until it no longer resembled anything human. Then the drone disappeared. But the signal did not stop. It continued. Changed. Alive. Neera watched it all. It's not destroying things, she said. It's absorbing them. Elias felt a cold realization settle in. Learning from them. Neera nodded. And becoming them. The spread accelerated. Continents were not destroyed. They faded. Edges of landmass dissolved into nothing, leaving behind clean, impossible boundaries. Oceans receded where the anomaly touched them, water simply ceasing to exist. Humanity evacuated where it could. But there was no safe place. Because it wasn't moving in a direction. It was expanding, like a thought growing in a mind too large to comprehend. We need to close it, Hale said. Neera shook her head. It's not a gateway, she said. There's nothing on the other side. This is it. Then we stop it here. You can't stop something that doesn't recognize resistance, she replied. Hale slammed his fist against the console. Then give me another option. Neera was quiet. Then she said something that made everyone in the room freeze. We join it. No. Elias said immediately. Yes. Neera replied. Not physically. Mentally. Hale stared at her. You want to connect to that thing. It's already connecting to us, she said. We just don't know how to talk back. Elias shook his head. That's not communication. That's assimilation. Only if we don't control it, Neera said. And you think you can? She met his eyes. I'm the closest thing you have. The plan was insane, dangerous beyond measure, but there were no alternatives. The system was built in hours. A neural interface, more advanced than anything humanity had ever created, designed to link Neera's mind directly with the anomaly. If this goes wrong, Hale said, we lose you. Neera didn't react. If this goes wrong, she replied, we lose everything anyway. She lay down in the chamber. Connections locked into place. Systems activated. Elias took a deep breath. Ready. Neera closed her eyes. The connection began. At first, nothing happened. Then everything did. Neera's mind expanded. Not physically, but conceptually. Boundaries dissolved. Thoughts stretched beyond her own identity, touching something vast and incomprehensible. It wasn't a mind. It wasn't alive in any human sense. It was a process. Endless. Recursive. Consuming. She felt it touch her. Not with intent. With curiosity. For the first time since it appeared, the anomaly paused. Elias watched the readings spike. What's happening? Hale asked. She's interacting with it, Elias said, barely able to believe it. Inside the connection, Neera did something no human had ever done. She responded, not with words, with structure. She reshaped her thoughts into patterns, offering them to the anomaly in a way it could process. For a moment, nothing changed. Then the expansion slowed, just slightly, but enough. It's working, Elias whispered. Hale stared at the screens. Keep it going. Neera pushed deeper. She showed it humanity, not just knowledge, not just data, experience, emotion, conflict, survival. For the first time, the anomaly hesitated. Because what it encountered did not fit. It did not follow the patterns it understood. It did not resolve cleanly. It contradicted itself. It adapted. It resisted. It was human. The anomaly responded, not by attacking, by changing. Its expansion shifted, slowed, focused. The nothingness began to stabilize, no longer erasing everything indiscriminately. Instead, it began to form. Structure emerging from absence. Elias watched in awe. It's learning, he said. Hale's voice was tight. Is that a good thing? Elias didn't answer, because he didn't know. Inside the connection, Neera felt something new. Not curiosity, recognition. The anomaly did not understand her, but it acknowledged her. For something so vast, so indifferent, that was enough to change everything. She pulled back. The connection severed. Neera gasped as she sat up, her body trembling. What happened? Elias asked. She looked at him, her eyes different now. It's not here to destroy us, she said. Hale exhaled. Finally, some good news. Neera shook her head. It's here to replace us. Silence. It sees existence as inefficient, she continued. Too chaotic, too unpredictable. Elias felt a chill. So it's rewriting it. Yes. Hale clenched his jaw. Then we stop it. Neera looked at him. No, she said. We change it. The anomaly hung in the sky, no longer expanding uncontrollably. Waiting, adapting, learning. Humanity stood at the edge of something far greater than war. Something that could not be defeated with weapons. Only with understanding. Neera stepped forward, looking up at the impossible horizon. They think that the end of everything, she said softly. Elias stood beside her. And what are we? Neera's lips curved into the faintest smile. With a problem they can't solve. And somewhere within the endless process, something shifted. Because for the first time, it had encountered something that refused to be erased. Something that refused to be simplified. Something that would fight not just to survive, but to remain human. And that was far more dangerous than any weapon. The horizon stopped meaning anything. There was still a sky, still a line where it met the earth, but it no longer separated one from the other. Light bent wrong. Distance folded. Mountains looked close enough to touch until you tried to walk toward them and found they had shifted somewhere else entirely. Reality had begun to negotiate with something that did not believe in it. Neera stood at the edge of what used to be a coastline, watching the ocean hesitate. Waves rolled forward, slowed, and then unraveled into nothing before reaching the shore. Not evaporating, not dissolving, simply ceasing to exist, as if the idea of water had been rejected mid-motion. Behind her, what remained of humanity waited. Cities had been abandoned, populations consolidated into zones stabilized by experimental fields, temporary barriers designed to anchor reality in place. They worked, but barely. Flickers of distortion slipped through constantly, reminders that the world itself was no longer guaranteed. Elias approached quietly. "You haven't slept," he said. Neera didn't turn. "Sleep assumes continuity," she replied. "That I will wake up in the same world I fell asleep in." Elias had no answer for that. "Is it still changing?" he asked. "Yes," she said, "but not randomly anymore." That was the part that unsettled everyone the most. The anomaly had learned. It no longer erased everything it touched. It chose. Regions stabilized or collapsed based on patterns no one else could see. Entire landscapes were reshaped into strange, repeating structures, as if reality itself were being rewritten according to a new logic. "What does it want?" Elias asked. Neera was silent for a moment. Then she said something that made his chest tighten. "It doesn't want," she said. "It optimizes." Behind them, alarms sounded. Not the frantic chaos of the first invasion. Controlled. Urgent. Elias turned immediately. "What is it?" A voice came through the comms. "Movement inside the stabilized zone." Something just appeared. Neera's eyes narrowed. "Not appeared," she said. "Formed." They moved quickly. The central zone was one of the largest remaining stable areas, protected by overlapping fields derived from alien technology. It was where the majority of survivors had gathered, where the last coordinated efforts were being made. And now, something was inside it. A crowd had formed at a distance, held back by soldiers who looked far less certain than they were trying to appear. At the center of the open space stood a shape. Humanoid, but not human. It looked like a figure carved out of shifting glass, its surface constantly rearranging itself, reflecting fragments of the world around it in distorted patterns. It did not move. It did not react. It simply existed. Neera stepped forward. "Stop." Hale's voice cut through the air. He emerged from the command line, weapon in hand. "We don't know what that thing is." Neera didn't slow. "I do," she said. Hale grabbed her arm. "It could be a trap." "It is," she replied calmly. "Just not the kind you think." She pulled free and continued forward. The soldiers tensed, weapons raised, but no one fired. Because deep down, they all understood. If this was what they thought it was, bullets wouldn't matter. Neera stopped a few meters away from the figure. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the air shifted. Not violently, subtly, like a thought forming. The figure moved. Its head tilted slightly, as if observing her. Then it spoke. Not with sound, with meaning. Neera felt it more than heard it. "You persist." She closed her eyes briefly, steadying herself. "So do you," she replied. A ripple passed through the figure's form. "Correction. I continue." Neera opened her eyes. "Why are you here?" A pause. Then, to resolve inconsistency. Neera's gaze hardened. "You mean us?" "Yes." Around them, the crowd shifted uneasily. No one else could hear the exchange, but they could feel it. The tension, the wrongness of it. Elias stepped closer, speaking quietly. "Can it understand us directly?" Neera nodded slightly. "Then ask it," he said. "What happens if it finishes?" She didn't look back at him. "What happens when you're done?" she asked. The figure stilled. Then, completion. Define completion. Neera pushed. A longer pause this time. Then the answer came. Uniformity. Elias felt his blood run cold. "What does that mean?" Hale demanded. Neera didn't respond immediately, because she already understood. "It means," she said slowly, "nothing changes anymore." Silence spread through the crowd. No change. No conflict. No unpredictability. No humanity. Hale stepped forward, anger breaking through his restraint. "That's extinction." The figure turned its attention toward him. "Incorrect." Continuation without deviation. Hale raised his weapon. Sounds the same to me. Neera lifted a hand. Don't, she said. Hale hesitated. Neera, it's telling us it's going to erase everything we are. It's telling us it doesn't see a difference, she replied. The figure shifted again, its form stabilizing slightly. You resist optimization. Neera met its gaze. Yes. Why? She didn't answer immediately. Because the answer wasn't simple. Because we're not a problem to solve, she said. We're a process. The figure seemed to consider that. Process leads to inconsistency. Inconsistency leads to growth, Neera replied. Growth leads to instability. Instability leads to adaptation. Adaptation leads to inefficiency. Neera smiled faintly. Only if your goal is perfection. The figure's surface rippled. Perfection is stability. Perfection is dead, Neera said. The words hung in the air. For a moment, the anomaly did nothing. Then something changed. Not in the world. In the way it responded. You introduce contradiction. Neera nodded. That's what we do. The figure shifted again, its form becoming less rigid, less defined. Contradiction cannot resolve. Exactly, she said. That's the point. Behind her, Elias realized what was happening. She's not trying to fight it, he whispered. She's trying to break its logic. Hale frowned. By arguing with it, by existing, Elias said. The anomaly had been built on one principle. Everything could be reduced. Everything could be simplified. Everything could be made uniform. Humanity was the exception, and Neera was showing it why. The figure stepped forward, not aggressively, curiously. It reached out. Neera didn't move. Their forms almost touched. Then the world flickered. For a split second, everything changed. Elias saw it, not with his eyes, with something deeper, a version of reality where everything was smooth, perfect, unchanging. No war, no pain, no loss, but also no choice, no variation, no life as humanity understood it. Then it was gone. Neera staggered slightly but stayed on her feet. You see it now, she said softly. The figure did not respond immediately. Then, conflict is inefficient. Yes, Neera said, but it's also necessary. Why? Because without it, nothing new happens. The figure's form destabilized further. New is unnecessary. Then why are you here? Neera asked. A pause. Longer than before. Because you exist. Neera's smile widened slightly. Exactly. The anomaly had come to erase inconsistency. But in doing so, it had encountered something it couldn't categorize. Something that didn't resolve. Something that kept changing. It had found humanity. And now, it didn't know what to do with it. You cannot be resolved, the figure said. No, Neera agreed. We can't. Then you are an error. She shook her head. No, we're a feature. The world around them shifted again, but this time it didn't collapse. It stretched, expanded, as if making room for something new. Elias felt it. The anomaly wasn't just reacting. It was adapting, not by erasing, by incorporating. It's changing, he said. Hale looked at him. That's not necessarily good. No, Elias agreed. But it's not the same as before. Neera stepped closer to the figure. You don't have to destroy everything to fix it, she said. Fix requires resolution. Then stop trying to fix it, she replied. Another pause. Then, define alternative. Neera took a breath. Coexistence. The word hung in the air like something fragile. Undefined, the anomaly said. Neera nodded. Exactly. The figure went still, processing. For the first time since it appeared, it wasn't acting. It was thinking. Not like a human, but closer than before. Elias watched the readings spike again. It's rewriting itself, he said. Hale's grip tightened on his weapon. Or preparing to finish the job. Neera closed her eyes briefly. Or both, she said. The moment stretched. Then the figure spoke again. Coexistence introduces permanent inconsistency. Yes, Neera said. That prevents completion. Yes, completion is objective. Neera opened her eyes. Maybe that's the problem. The figure's form fractured slightly, multiple versions of itself overlapping for a moment. Objective cannot be invalid. Then expand it, Neera said. Silence. Then, explain. Neera stepped forward until she was standing directly in front of it. Your objective is to create a stable system, she said. Right, yes. Then include instability as part of that system. Contradiction. Evolution, she corrected. The figure didn't respond, so she continued. You don't eliminate change, she said. You manage it. Manage implies control, not control, Neera said. Balance. The word lingered. Balance. The figure repeated it, slower. Testing it, as if it were a new concept. Elias realized what was happening. It's learning a new framework, he said. One that doesn't require total uniformity. Hale exhaled slowly. And if it rejects it? Elias didn't answer, because they all knew what that meant. The figure stepped back. Its form stabilized. Not rigid, not chaotic, something in between. Balance is inefficient. Neera nodded. Yes, inefficiency is undesirable. Only if your goal is speed, she said. Not if your goal is survival. Another pause. Then, survival requires adaptation. Neera smiled. Exactly. The world held its breath. Then the anomaly made its choice. The nothingness in the sky shifted. Not expanding, not erasing, reforming. The edges of the anomaly softened, blending into reality instead of replacing it. The distortions across the planet stabilized, no longer spreading uncontrollably. The figure in front of Neera changed. Its surface became less reflective, more defined. Still alien, still impossible, but no longer incomprehensible. Objective updated, it said. Neera didn't move. To what? A final pause. Then, sustained dynamic equilibrium. Elias let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Hale lowered his weapon. Is that good? He asked. Neera looked at the sky. It's not the end, she said. The figure turned, looking outward. Then it began to dissolve. Not disappearing, integrating, returning to the larger system. Before it fully vanished, it spoke one last time. You remain unresolved. Neera nodded. We always will. A final ripple. Then it was gone. The sky remained. Not broken. Not perfect. Alive. Days passed. Then weeks. The world stabilized. Not completely. Not permanently. But enough. The anomaly didn't leave. It became part of reality. A presence woven into the fabric of existence. No longer erasing, but influencing. Guiding. Balancing. Humanity adapted. Because that's what it does. Elias stood once again under an open sky, this time with Neera beside him. It's still watching, he said. Yes, she replied. Do you trust it? Neera considered that. No, she said. But I understand it. Elias nodded slowly. That might be enough. She looked at him. It has to be. In the distance, the horizon shimmered slightly. Not breaking. Not folding. Just reminding them. The universe had changed. And so had they. Neera turned her gaze upward. It didn't solve us, she said quietly. Elias followed her gaze. No, he agreed. It couldn't. A faint smile touched her lips. Because we're not meant to be solved. Somewhere beyond perception, within the vast process that had once sought to erase everything, something continued. Not searching for perfection anymore. Searching for balance. And at the center of that change was a single, undeniable truth. Humanity was not a flaw in the system. It was the reason the system evolved. And that made it something far more dangerous than any enemy. It made it essential.